Hey everybody, welcome to another week of quarantine and welcome to the podcast. We just want to address a couple things. We've been getting some questions about how are you continuing to do these podcasts during lockdown. First off, no guests were harmed during the making of this show. No guests came within 6, 10, or 15 feet of me during social distancing. These shows were pre-recorded before the coronavirus outbreak took effect. Also, we want to give a huge shout out to our healthcare workers and everyone who's on the front lines of this disease. Thank you very much for doing your part to bring us back to some state of normalcy. And lastly, we could not do this show at all without the support of our patrons. You are our heroes. The names of you guys are listed here on the screen. And we just got to give a big shout out because you allow us to continue to do what we love, to create content, to bring people together, to enjoy joy and laughter together, and to start conversations about Jesus. Please consider becoming a patron if you aren't one already. You can go to patreon.com/Funny&Amen. There's some exclusive content over there, and you'll just see what we're about. We are about to get the show on the road, so since you're not going anywhere, enjoy the show. Hi, my name is Kevin Hackenberg, and I'm very excited tonight on our podcast, Christians Who Drink Whiskey and Their Minded Friends, to have my friend Dave Winston joining us.
Hello.
Of course, our channel is called Funny&Amen. You can abbreviate that F&Amen. And if you don't like that joke, maybe this is not the channel for you or the podcast for you because we're about to pour open some whiskey. We got here a bottle of Writer's Tears. I have no idea what this tastes like. Have you had this before?
I have.
You have?
It tastes like fresh squeezed Writers.
I don't know what that... I've never drank a Writer.
Really? You're about to find out.
Here we go. All right. It's a twist off, so that's a quality we always like. And so Dave tells me he likes his drinks.
Neat.
That's neat. That's neat. Did you like them neat? I love everybody who, I want it on the rocks. I want it
Yeah.
Last night, our other podcast was like, well, let's take it straight. Or there's always the crazy words for how you drink it.
That's bar culture, baby.
Bar culture. But
yeah.
You...
got to be in the know.
Neat. It's neat to have you here.
It's neat to be anywhere. Ooh.
Whiskey.
I can taste Ireland.
True. I was just there. I was there recently with my some international producer groups I hang out with a lot. We think we're more of a drinking group. But yeah, enough about Ireland. Thank you for coming, being part of this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So in our preview yesterday, I said I was thinking about this. What's fascinating to me about religion, and I see you're wearing one of your gods on your pin, Thor.
One of my gods?
I don't know.
I wore this on purpose.
Thor.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I love that. I love when you talk about religion or whatever, as I do sometimes, being a follower of Jesus, the half decent follower some days. You get lots of responses. So on our Facebook page, I'm always excited when when my social media guy posts something about Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is like the Christian sponsor of Christianity, the fast food version of Christianity. If you could do drive-through church, it would happen at a Chick-fil-A, but not on Sundays.
Yes. So yeah,
you can't. Yeah. But Dave always posts.
Catch-22.
If you don't mind me sharing,
please.
Dave always posts anytime there's a Chick-fil-A. Tastes like bigot.
I do.
And I love it. I get a kick out of it every time because I love humor and I love the truth and I love the hairy edge of where conversations about religion
It's tough.
Take us.
It's tough.
Take us.
Yeah.
So tell me about Taste Like Bigot. Is that your own writing, or is that
was one of mine? Yeah, I have to take the blame for that one.
Thank you for being a responder.
Oh well, hey, your posts make me chuckle.
Good, awesome. Hopefully, sometimes
it is funny and amen. So
amen.
there we go.
Or amen.
Or amen.
Yeah. So tell me, let's introduce you a little bit more. So Dave and I met nearly 20 years ago.
Back in the late 50s.
No, it was 90s maybe.
Might be
mid to late 90s, and at the time Dave was an audio professional on film sets.
I was a sound man.
Yes. He's right now looking around judging my sound apparatus. And gets the job done.
You're a gifted amateur.
been a gifted amateur at sound for 20 years.
There we go.
And we almost made a movie together of your doing, which I was very excited about the cultural intensity called Too Many Cameras.
Too Many Cameras, yeah.
And then we've worked together many years, had good times, and now you're producing. Mm-hmm. That's right, at our friend's Michael's company.
Yeah. PWP Video.
That's right. Awesome. Tell me, how do you describe yourself when you go into a room to the bartender when he pours you some whiskey?
Ooh, I invent entirely new personas when I'm in the bar. So.
Oh yeah.
How do I describe myself? I was a sound man for 30 years and did a lot of listening. Went a lot of places, did a lot of things, and then took a couple of years off. Got out of the business completely, and then realized I missed it and came back. And
were you making good money outside the business?
I was, but it was deadly dull.
Yeah.
And one thing you can say about our business, or about the video business, is it's not dull.
Yeah.
It's not dull. It's different. What I really missed was. It was different, our business is different every day. You're going to a different place. You're meeting different people. What you do constantly changes. You're in different environments. And I was going to the same office with the same people every day. And there were wonderful people, and it was in a nice office, and I had a very comfortable chair, and I put on 30 pounds. But it was just not for me.
Cool.
So, the idea when I took the job, I went into the financial services industry. About as far from what we do as you can get, and my goal the goal of my job was to take this financial services company from a small 2-man operation to turn it into a larger company. So in the space of 2 years, we went from 2 people to 10 people on staff, rebranded, new offices, new everything.
Nice.
And I did it, and I was like, okay, I did it. I proved I can do it. Time to walk away.
Back to storytelling. Can we talk about storytelling?
Sure.
Up here I have Dave Winston's Facebook page. I see with the Lancaster Story Slam. Tell me about story slamming. That's so much fun.
After I kind of got away from doing sound and started producing, and at the same time I got to a point in my life where I decided I wanted to stop listening to what other people were doing and start putting stuff back out there. Because I came to the realization that, over the years, I've been amazing places and met amazing people and done some fascinating things. And all that will be gone if there's no record of it somewhere. If it's not shared with other people, if it doesn't become part of other people, your story just dies. And I wanted to start telling those stories.
So most of when you go to a story slam, are there production stories or just stories of your life or a combination?
Sometimes they're specifically production stories, but they're not necessarily about production. Production is so in. You have 5 minutes to tell a story. By the time I explain to you who the gaffer is, who the best boy is, and the hierarchy of things,
the name dropping,
or why it's important that I had to do it this way, the story's over. Your 5 minutes are over.
Yeah.
So, but I've been able, working on documentaries and news over the years, I've worked with incredible people who and stories met people whose stories have not been told, fascinating people whose stories should be told, and a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff of people whose stories will never be told. And I feel like I'm carrying their stories with me, and I want to get them out there.
That's cool.
So
that's awesome. You want to tell us a story about Thor? Or?
Thor, the story behind Thor, I'm a bit of a rebel, and over the years
I've always loved that about you.
Cheers. Cheers. And over the years, I've worked on many documentaries with people of the cloth.
Yeah.
And we're
not talking about cotton.
No, we're not. People called to God.
To God.
People who are living their life in service to God.
Yeah, cool.
In one way or another. I've worked with let me drop some names.
All right.
Worked with the Dalai Lama. He's
nice.
great. Yep. Big hitter, the Lama. Worked with nuns and priests and in doing work, doing documentary work, and met fascinating people. And I've always felt that I'm not part of that world, and that's what Thor is. Thor has, when I've been doing, following the Dalai Lama along, Thor was always pinned to the inside of my jacket, and so was it. And it was a little bit about reminding me that, the Vikings took Thor as seriously as we do Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's just my little bit of rebellion in the moment. So
if you were a Viking, you would not be a Thor worshiper.
No, I would probably have, a tree, a little carving of a tree, the pre-Viking,
maybe that would
nature
be the
worshipers.
Maybe that would be the pre.
Yeah.
Back it up, pre-tree worshiping. I don't know,
Yeah,
or forward,
worshiping the sun or the thunder.
What do we worship now?
I don't know. That's a loaded question. I just came from Disney World, and you would swear that we worship a mouse. So
I don't know. The mouse is not as present anymore. Now there's there's girls running around with like a little white or red hair. Like the Frozen ladies.
Mm-hmm.
The ladies of
they're there. Yeah.
Yeah. Why were you in Disney World?
We took the family down for a little vacation. My wife had a working vacation.
Yeah.
She works in radio, and they were doing live broadcasts from Disney World. So we were able to combine that with a little.
You have your kids with you, or
my 16-year-old and my 22-year-old, and
nice.
It was just like they were 6 and.
It's magical. We took our kids last winter, and we were actually there in Orlando. We on the 30th or something like that. We went, and maybe we were there at the same time, but. We went to Universal this time, but the Disney experience is like so as from a storytelling perspective and an entertainment perspective. I was just there and I was like, it's magical. Like they got the happy cocaine like turned up high, Yeah, cool.
Well, I mean, it's magical in so many of the meanings of that word.
Yeah.
In that, I mean, I started out working in a magic store when I was 14 years old because.
Nice.
I hate not knowing something. I hated not knowing how magicians' tricks worked.
Yeah.
Right? So I needed to know how all the tricks work. So I worked in a magic store.
Yeah.
And I found out that the little spring-loaded thing or the with the little hook, that's not the magic. The magic is what the magician does.
Yeah. To
that's
distract
the real magic.
from the hook.
Yeah. And Disney works on so many levels. It's not just the storytelling that they do, it's the technology that they use to do it. It's the seamless way they try to integrate the entire experience from the way you wake up in the morning, from the way you come from the airport, all the way through to the time you go back to the airport. They want to make that a seamless Disney experience, and the magic of using the laws of economics and physics to force as much money out of your pocket into their pocket as humanly possible.
That's some dark magic.
Yeah, it's you see the psychology at work there. Just there are no clocks. Just like in Vegas, they don't want you thinking about getting out. They want you to if you're there for dinner, you got to eat. Yep. So magic on all levels at Disney.
That's awesome, man. So you're back to production, back to enjoying life. How from being a guy who's just shows up and holds the boom, tweaks some sound, to a guy producing, what's that transition like?
It's I've always dabbled in it. I always did things on the side, but when you're the sound guy, you don't want other producers to know that you're producing because they don't like competition. So I kind of kept that on the side. So I was always, directing and producing little things on the side. And so it wasn't a big transition. The transition for me now is the company that I'm working for. At PWP, we focus on nonprofits and sustainable businesses almost exclusively. I mean, we do have some commercial clients, but we really focus on helping people who help people. It is not a profit-driven company; it is a mission-driven company, and that is, it goes a little bit against the grain with me. I'm the resident capitalist saying, we could take this pharma client, and the guys are like, yeah, we could. But, we end up working with these people who are literally changing the world one person at a time. People who are making the lives of people better on a daily basis. Yeah. People who want to, save the planet. People who want to just, help abused women. People who want to feed people. And it's so different and so rewarding that it kind of refocused me on, do I want to use my storytelling powers for good or for evil? Do I want to, I get to use them for good.
It's interesting. Excuse me. It is an interesting dilemma. Capitalism and doing good, whether for your God or humanity or whatever, because you fall into these like situations where you're serving other humans, and sometimes those humans are, have you ever found we've worked for a lot of people over the years. Have you ever found that you're working for somebody and then 10 years later you realize that person was like the bad guy?
Oh yeah, I'm on the day. Yeah, I bet there've been days where I've been sitting there going, I am in the heart of darkness here. I am this person I am working for today. I am not doing good in the world. I am spewing poison into the world. And I worked for a guy once who was selling nutritional supplements, and it just seemed like snake oil to me. And I was like, what? And I Google the guy, and indictment list starts coming up, and I'm like, oh. I've worked for all sorts of people, and I've realizing, I've worked for people of the opposite political persuasion on purpose. Following the teachings of Sun Tzu to know the ways of the enemy. I mean, I've tried to, I was one of the stories I always tell is I was working for a pharmaceutical company, and pharmaceuticals take a lot of heat, but they do a lot of good in the world, and there's a balance there between the people who want to do good in the world and cure disease, and the people who want to make a ton of money doing it. Yeah. And trying to stay in that balance is tough. But I had the CEO of a major pharmaceutical company stand up in front of his sales force and say, we do not cure disease. We do not make people better. We are a sales organization, period. And then go outside and record him saying, we love being part of curing people. And it's just like, okay, all right. I'm not making the world a better place today.
Yeah. It is fascinating. I think that in media we have the power to do that, or the power to make money working for people, and I think other people, like, it's interesting because we all need to put whiskey on our table, or bread at least, and having our work be kind of transient, but you get a chance to kind of decide what you do and don't do, and it's
that was the big attraction for being a freelancer is that, no matter how bad the job is, no matter how much you hate your work on any particular day, it only lasts till the end of that day. You can always walk away at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And having that freedom was very appealing to me.
Yeah, cool. We've been talking for about 20 here. Let's take a break and come right back.
Don't go away.
Don't go away. Or do, and then cue it up later after you get on social media again tomorrow. Welcome back. You're watching Christians who drink whiskey and their open-minded friends on Funny&Amen. Please go, if you like this content and some of the short comedy content we're doing, please go to patreon.com/funny&amen and consider becoming a patron. You'll get to see this content earlier and some other of our content and behind-the-scenes stuff. So please support, and thank you very much to our patrons for making this and more possible. Thank you, Writer's Tears, for making me laugh and cry, and you need another round. Or at least I do. So we were talking about Disney World, and we were talking about magic, and we were talking about the god of the Vikings, Thor. He has another name, god of something, god of war.
God of thunder.
Thunder.
Yeah.
Thunder.
He's now a comic book character.
He's now a comic book character and a movie character and a beautiful blonde, as always. So, cheers. So let's dive in a little deeper. The question I ask after every break is, what do you think of Jesus?
I stand with the Doobie Brothers. Jesus is just all right with me. I have a very conflicted history with religion and with Jesus in particular.
What did he ever do to you?
Hard to know that. My parents, I'm a lapsed Methodist.
Okay.
My parents were very involved in the church before I was born. And then they moved to Harrisburg and went to a new church. Now, the previous church they had been involved in was very big on fellowship, very big on the church as a community, and everyone was very involved, and it was a very active church. The new church they went to, which was a block and a half from my house, was more like a country club. And it was less about the spirituality and more about social networking back in the day. It was more about, you got to buy your insurance from this guy, and you got to buy your car from that guy, and this is your dentist, and completely turned my parents off as they stopped going. And consequently, I stopped going in the middle of my Sunday school upbringing.
You flunked out of Sunday school.
I did. Did not pass.
What age was this?
I guess this was. I was pretty young, so I guess I was 6, 7 when I stopped going.
Okay, cool.
So the result was a long period of self-education about religion, where I went around looking at different religions, went to different churches, went to different faiths to find out if I was missing something. Yeah. Like I said, I hate not knowing something.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see if there was a religion that spoke to me. And that was a very long process in my late teens and early 20s.
And your parents, they just like quit cold turkey and just never went back, and they. It's interesting. What did your parents think of you? Going around and experimenting with different thoughts and beliefs.
I thought I think they both carried Jesus in their hearts. Pretty much the rest of their lives, but it was in their own way. It was faith or belief without doctrine.
Without the country club membership.
And for me, I think they took it as seriously as, when I followed a new band. This is just another thing Dave's doing.
Yeah.
So.
Wait, they followed your progress or their own progress?
My progress. I think their attitude towards what I was doing was about the same as their attitude toward, me trying a new haircut or me trying new clothes or me, following a new band. This is just the phase Dave's going through.
It's fascinating. I've been hanging out with a few different believers now that one gentleman who I really enjoy, our comic presence up in New York, and he was a practicing Jew and was searching for a lot of different things, and then recently in the last couple of years started following Jesus, and then not so long after that stopped going to church because he was just like I don't need to. He didn't fully embrace the country club aspect of the things that go wrong with organized religion, And he's still we just hung out last week, and he was still fully embracing his spiritual relationship with Jesus, but not fully embracing a lot of the churches that he'd been going to. So I think it's interesting. It's an interesting dichotomy because I think that as a believer, I think there's a lot of people that they assume that because you like Jesus, then you're part of that country club mentality, or that anything that the church gets put in these boxes of these political boxes, especially, and
well, the people speaking the loudest are not generally the poster children for the philosophy of Christianity.
That's very true.
So, and that's you're carrying that burden as well.
It's very funny. We talk about politics here and there. As I study Jesus, who I'm a super fan of, I get the feeling that he, and this is going to maybe offend some of my viewers, and maybe they've turned off because of the whiskey. That's fine. I think that I studied Jesus as being kind of apolitical, being the guy who's not going for power. He's actually trying to lead in another way, and not leading through government or power or that kind of stuff. So when I see different people pushing a law agenda or political agenda in the name of Jesus, I get kind of I'm are we reading the same text? And what I find fascinating, this is fascinating to me, is that most of the time in that pursuit, they're actually leaving out the name of Jesus. They're using the generic God, and using a lot of Old Testament kind of stuff, and for their thing. Now, some New Testament stuff. There's some things that Jesus say that's very divisive, 100%, and he's a very divisive character. We divided the time from BC to 80. But I think that I see that a lot of I see a lot of Christians taking Jesus' name in vain more than the people that say goddamn.
Well, you can often see where that line is by which lines of scripture they quote at you. The render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's is often spun one way or another, and
they don't do it about taxes, do they?
No, they don't. But there are other lines where I'm not as good as I used to be at quoting chapter and verse, but Jesus speaks a lot about ceding power to earthly political establishment, and considering that he was a major revolutionary of his time, you can cut through the New Testament and find verses that support either side of that.
Yeah. Well, anyone you want to support, it's very easy to take things out of context and or to twist them or
Well, what was the one there was a particular Jesus and his poverty is always a topic of conversation. It was the Council of Trent, I think, was all based on, did Jesus own the clothes that he wore? I mean, there Jesus and his poverty, and the idea that it's easier for an elephant to pass through the eye of a needle.
Easier for a rich man. I'm sorry, easier for a camel to pass through an eye of a needle than a rich person to go to heaven.
Yes.
The kingdom of God, maybe it's quoted.
Yes. The recalculation of that to support the rich was that the eye of a needle was actually a large gate.
Oh, yes.
In the city.
Yes.
And in Jerusalem, and a camel could easily pass through it. So is it a quote about poverty, or is it a quote about?
I think that a lot of people that are people that don't appreciate this podcast or what I'm trying to do don't appreciate comedy, because.
Do you think Jesus was funny?
I think that very quote is a very, like, it's easier. It's an absurdity. Mm-hmm. He's speaking in absurdity. It's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle. That's the most absurd thing that could physically in that day. It's like take the largest animal they know about in that region and put it through the smallest hole, and I think it's absurd. Mm-hmm. So he's basically saying, like, yeah, it's pretty difficult for a person. It's pretty difficult for a person who has all the wealth. They can buy whatever they want on earth to even think about spiritual things. So the people that are more likely to care about the poor are not the rich. They're the people that are just above the poor.
Right.
They're a little closer. They're a little closer to the eye of the needle, so they can see, like, oh, I wish they could come through here, and so they're more likely to, help a poor person out if they feel like they're just above poor.
But the people who we're actually quoting, I mean, if we can just take a step back from the idea that the Bible is, the dictation of the Word of God.
Yeah.
And we look at the historical perspective. What we are reading are the tales of incredible storytellers.
Yeah.
Of people who, the Gospels are 100 years, written 100 years or more after the. There we go. After Christ had died.
Yeah.
So these were stories that
50,
were
starting 50, I believe. But
okay.
But one, yeah.
So these were somebody writing down stories that had been told by master storytellers. The way we have communicated our humanity and our culture since we came down out of the trees.
Yeah.
These were master storytellers who not only knew how to, not only had the content to communicate, but they knew that content is best communicated if I can make you laugh, if I can make you cry, if I can make you feel something and give you a lesson. That you're going to carry that forward with you. And so these were master storytellers plying their craft. Could be generations of master storytellers. So
this is annoying me. Sorry, people. This is distracting from conversations.
We are video professionals.
It's only happened on 12 other.
There's like 100 years of technical expertise sitting at this table right now.
We can't plug in a monitor. I think that you're a storyteller. Mm-hmm. Do you embellish your stories?
Of course.
Do you go for those laughs and cries?
My sister yells at me. She goes, "It didn't happen in that order." I'm like, okay, but it's a story, If I tell you the punchline before the setup, it's not a story. I'm not telling. It's not a documentary process where I go on, at 6:15.
And those are all, and documentaries are all perfectly true as well. So.
Yes, as we all know,
nothing's made up.
So it's about the presentation. It's about telling the story in a way that engages the audience and makes them listen. We were talking earlier about story slams.
Yeah.
And, the scoring in story slams is all over the place.
Yeah.
So what I tell people is you have to develop whatever a win is for you in telling your story.
Yeah.
It's not stammering and keeping your hands out of your pocket, whatever it is. Or some people pick somebody out in the audience, I'm going to make that person laugh.
Yeah.
If I keep for me, it's always the bartender and the waiters and waitresses.
Yeah.
If I can stop them doing what they're doing.
To listen,
I won.
Nice.
Because they're being paid to ignore me. So if I can get them, I don't care what my score is.
I wonder if the people watching this are listening to us or ignoring us now. Don't look. Don't look. Don't look. Don't look. They're not watching.
I'm just making sure that these guys are listening.
Yeah, they're pretty good listeners. When they start talking, that's when I know I need
to. You're way too far in your cups.
I'm way too far. Cool. Well, that's about what time did we start?
I don't know.
It's 38. 38 minutes, people. It's not bad. I went long with some and short with others. What I want to do that thing where I fake and stop the camera. You get the good.
Thank God that's over.
When the good stuff comes out, you know.
We need to pour this out and turn it so that they think that we're that far into the bottle.
Seriously, let me ask you a question. What so in the Chick-fil-A drama, right? This is one of the I wanted to kind of get a mix of people that would, show up to, like, it's interesting saying that you're going to try to do like content that deals with faith, even though like I'm trying to do this like comedy realm to kind of like make sure that everybody can like laugh at it, I get two very interesting results. One is I have a lot of Christians that say like, "Oh, you're not going to make fun of Christians, are you?" And I'm like, No, I'm going to make fun of atheists and Jews and Muslims. I think God's calling me to do that. And I get these like stares like, is that supposed to be a joke? I'm like, yes. Yes. You got it. Good. You're following. On the flip side, when I put out, I'm going to do something, I got this like, comedy channel, the Funny&Amen. It's funny, the Amen throws people off, and I've gotten some comedy people. They're like, no, I'm steering clear of like anything religious. And I tell them you can abbreviate it F&Amen, and they'll come a little inch closer. But it's interesting. I've kind of isolated myself in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Well, religion was never something you discuss in polite company before it became politically divisive.
Can you before it became...
I mean, even in the old days, when we didn't hate each other because of our political views, it was still something you didn't discuss in polite company. So
because people are taking it too seriously. Perhaps.
I don't know. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's it should be left up to the professionals. I'll let my priest decide what it is I think about Jesus. Or I'm not a professional at this. I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know what doctrine is. I don't know what. Yeah. So maybe I'm just gonna let the professionals handle it.
Have you, in your searching, did you ever discover like what do you? So you told me what you thought about Jesus, or maybe you didn't actually. You talking about the Methodist history. What do you think now? Like, what's your, like, when you think about the universe or where it came from, where it's going, where we go after we're dead? What do you think?
You know what? I don't know. In a search, I do not know.
Thank you. I love it. I don't know either, and I love that answer. If you're honest. And
every religious figure that I've studied that I respect. I came around to the conclusion that you know what, if I live a good life, if I follow the golden rule, if I treat people the way I want to be treated, if I try to lead a good life, if I get to the pearly gates and that's not good enough, well then that's not good enough. If I have to, I don't know, just not to pick on the Catholics, but if I have to eat fish on Friday to get into heaven, if it's that specific, then I don't know that I would call that a merciful God. And
sometimes you want to eat meat or vegetables.
And they're also every club has its price of membership.
Yeah.
We often talk about how everything contains its opposite. Everything contains the seeds of its own destruction. Everything contains, it's the yin and the yang. All of the wonderful good things that are contained in Christianity. Christianity also has always contained its opposite. It has been violently spread across the planet. It has been from the scandals in the Catholic Church, which aren't in the Catholic Church. They're in all Christian churches and probably in Muslim churches and
atheist gatherings.
Yeah, it probably was the same thing when we were worshiping the lightning and the sun and living in caves. It is a source of temporal secular power or temporal power on earth that people have, and where there's power, people will abuse it. Human beings will abuse it. One of the work I had spent a couple of years working on a documentary about the Catholic Church and a lot of the good works that they were doing in lower income areas, and I met people of incredible faith who are devoting their lives to making the world a better place. With or without Jesus in the mix, these people are changing lives, making things better. Wonderful people. And then you get the thing, get the child abuse scandals, the rape scandals. And on top of the horrible things that were done to those children, it also made the good works of a lot of very good people, nuns and priests and lay people in the Catholic Church, a joke, a punchline. The church, in that sense, contained the seeds of its own destruction. They contained it. All that good was wiped away by the evil that was done there. And you see it in any organization of human beings. We're flawed, and we have a tendency to, like the country club thing. There was an opportunity there to come to Jesus, and they decided to also make a little money on the side.
It's interesting. You mentioned the Catholic Church and that kind of scandal, like this Christian organization that I was did a lot of work for and video work for and grew up in and around, and even like launched a film concept with and a partnership with. I almost did a fundraising video with a leader of this very well-known Christian event, and when that. And then he got, in the Me Too movement, people came out and he's in jail now. And it's interesting, I got a chance to talk to his partner in the event a couple years later, and the event's still going on and definitely has changed the tone a lot of the event. And I think it made the people, well, two things. One, like, this guy's human. And I think that there's a lot of deifying of humans, of priests, of Christian leaders, of other religious leaders that happens. Deifying of political leaders, whether they be of a religious or non-religious persuasion. And I think that deifying is what I think I'm interested in, using comedy to. We do it to ourselves. We deify ourselves sometimes when we look down on other people, other people of other beliefs, or other people of other persuasions, other people of other races, social economic classes. So I think that deification is interesting. It's fascinating. And I think that it's fun. It's fun as a comedy lover. It's fun to pick that apart and just say, like, hey, we're all kind of silly. We're all funny. We're all funny in one way or another.
Yeah, trying to find a comedy through line there is going to be difficult. That's.
I'm not sure there's a through line.
But no, I mean, jokes. When you structure a joke, you have to approach it with a point of view.
Yeah.
And the ideas you're talking about, and I'm not trying to dissuade you in any way. I can't wait to see it, actually. The point of view you're talking about is so fraught with pitfalls from not only our various perspectives on religion, but our various upbringings. That it would be interesting to see how you navigate that to a laugh.
It's funny. The stuff that I've been most proud of doing has been, I've gotten certain laughs from certain people, and it's very interesting because the religion. You're right. Religion is, you don't bring it up because it's very serious to some people. It's very. I'm sorry. Jesus is very serious to me. I'm very serious about Jesus. I'm not very serious about religion. I'm not very serious about Christianity. I'm not very serious about the church because I recognize that these are all human-created things, And I know that other people's perspective that maybe Jesus and his whole story is a human-created thing, and that's I can't but just appreciate that that's someone's perspective. I think that what I enjoy as someone who does believe in Jesus, in saying to my other Jesus-loving people when they can't take a joke, when they can't say, "Oh yeah, I'm comfortable laughing at myself. I'm comfortable laughing at us." I'm more okay laughing at them. That's where I'm like, well, that's what Jesus would do.
WWJD. It's my philosophy ended up boiling down to not trusting people. People will always let you down. So I believe in truth, and I believe in I believe in ideas. So when I hear an idea, I don't worship the person who made the quote. I worship the idea. I worship the values that are in the concept of what it is they're saying. So Joel Osteen may say some incredible things. I'm not going to deify Joel Osteen. Thomas Jefferson said some incredible things, and I personally worship the truth that's in there. He may have had a personal life that was less, it didn't live up to the values that he espoused, but it's the ideas. I find that people will always let you down. Everybody's got feet of clay. But the ideas are always
feet
there.
Feet of clay.
Yeah.
I've heard that word before.
It's people have feet of clay. We're all idols to be smashed.
Oh, that's cool. What do you think? Here's a question I was thinking about the other day. As a Christian, I have Jesus as this superhero of forgiveness. For someone who doesn't necessarily accept, Jesus as a deity, are there superheroes of forgiveness and
Well, I mean, I think a lot of Eastern philosophy comes at that, but from a different point of view, and in that, the forgiveness idea comes around to, why are you the morality police looking to punish somebody or not punish somebody? And a more Eastern philosophy would be, this is all going to happen, and it's going to come around, and there's going to be good, and there's going to be bad, and who's to say? The old Zen philosophy of good luck, bad luck. Who can tell? Yeah, you know that. Do you know that story?
I don't know that story, but I know the what's the Chinese curse? May you have an interesting life.
Yeah, may you live in interesting times.
Yeah.
Well, the Zen koan is a guy Chinese farmer. His horse runs away. Everybody in the village goes, "Oh, that's terrible luck." Horse comes back the next day and brings 5 horses with it. Everybody goes, "Oh, that's great luck." The farmer says, "We'll see." The next day, his son takes one of the wild horses out, falls off it, and breaks both his legs. And everybody goes, "Oh, that's terrible luck." And the farmer says, "Good luck, bad luck, who can tell?" The next day, the Chinese army comes rolling in, and they're looking for all the able-bodied men to go to war and die against the Mongolian horde. And the boy can't go because his legs are broken. And so he stays with his family. Good luck, bad luck, who can tell? That's more of the Eastern philosophy of, where we seem to want to have a list of rules and, don't break these.
Even if we make up the rules ourselves, and you broke a code.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from. Is that the Protestant work ethic, or is that the European the harshness of the European?
I think your story is about luck. It's not about someone breaking the kid's legs.
No, that's true.
Your story right. is about things that just happen out of from God or a coincidence.
Right.
It's more when like you say something or someone says something to hurt my feelings and I get pissed off, or worse, they steal money from me, or they steal something from me.
Mm-hmm.
Can we? Having that, same. There's a piece of that good luck, bad luck, who can tell in there, because you're like, all right, well, I had a friend who recently realized his business partner was cheating on him, or kind of a turn off the business.
Or, okay.
No, just it was like it's a long story, but I said, hey, you guys have been partners for like 6 months. Congratulations, you found out now.
Right. Exactly.
Good luck, bad luck, who can tell?
Who can tell?
Yeah. And it'll take you a few months to get over like the hurt, the emotional hurt from him being a scoundrel, but 6 months later you'll be free and clear of that. So.
Well, this guy stole the money from me, but he took it home and fed his family.
Yeah.
Now, that family got fed. You would have given that money to charity to feed that family anyway. He just robbed you of the choice.
Cut out the middle.
Good luck, bad luck. Who can tell? Right. It's just a different philosophy of how we of thought of how we approach what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
And I find that when I find a little tidbit of wisdom from whatever realm, there's a sniff test. I think it's completely individual, this sniff test, whether it smacks, whether this truth smacks of humanity or divinity. Is what this truth is telling me, this little idea.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about maybe it's a big idea, good luck, bad luck, or maybe it's a little thing about how I conduct myself or how I react to something. Maybe it's a little bit of psychology, and or
one of us is beeping. Biz, there's a honeybee. Go.
But whenever I encounter that little bit of wisdom, and I decide, okay, this is something that's interests me, and I want to collect that into my personal philosophy.
Yeah.
I always put that sniff test to it. Does it seem divinely inspired? Is this something that could be universal? Is this something that makes us aspire to higher purpose?
Yeah.
Or is it something that is just a survival thing? Is this something that is smacks it? I wish I could give you an example.
We're being very Western here and talking logic. Have you ever had any like spiritual experiences or supernatural experiences?
I had leukemia. They came into my hospital room and the doctor said, listen, I'm going to give it to you straight. The kind of leukemia you have generally burns through a human body in 30 days. So in 30 days, you'll either be dead or cured. So I had 30 days of looking into the abyss. And it was a 30 days alone in a hospital room. The nurses coming and going, but I decided that if I was going to die, I wasn't going to do it watching television. So I had them turn the television off, and I spent 30 days in reflection.
You were sure about that, right?
Huh?
You were sure about that.
Sure about what?
Not watching TV as you go out.
Yeah, I'm not watching TV as I go out. I worked in it. I don't need to see it. Boom. So I spent 30 days in a period of when I wasn't on morphine. Of looking into the abyss and trying to decide, is this my moment to accept a higher power? Or is this my moment to reject a higher power? What are my feelings on this? And it basically reaffirmed where I had already come to, which was that it's the idea, if there's anything that is of a higher realm. There are these moments of wisdom, these bits of wisdom and ideas that make us treat each other better, make us treat our planet better, make our that are worthy of worship. The ideas are worthy of worship, not the people. Tastes like bigot.
Have you been to Chick-fil-A?
There's one less than half a mile from my house in the Plymouth Meeting Mall.
Do you still go?
No,
Okay.
I haven't had it in years. I stopped going to Domino's Pizza. I stopped going. Once
They're Christian. They're Christian.
They are. They're not. It's not Christian. It's they give to anti-choice.
Okay.
And
fascinating. The abortion thing is a fascinating thing because I think it's fascinating. I don't know. I've never been put in this situation to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
With that choice. It's very powerful. It is tough choice.
And the thing that's toughest about the issue is that people of honest people of good intention and good character and honorable intent can have different points of view on it.
Yeah.
It has been so polarized in the debate that there's no coming back from it. It's been turned into a political engine that feeds political parties.
What back to the Chick-fil-A.
But the Chick-fil-A thing was. I've always been, since I was a kid, I've never had any issue with LGBTQ community. I grew up in the theater, and we knew before we knew. And
your kids are in theater. What's the one sign? Those creatives.
But I try to be, a rational, objective person about all my. Any position that I take, whether it's social or economic, or I try to make it a well-examined, well-thought-out position. Mm-hmm. I seek out opposing points of view so that I can test my logic and my feelings. One of the reasons I argue with people on Facebook is if you can come up with an argument that's better than mine, I may change my mind. So I will argue out arguments just to test the strength of them. It was really put into a test for me now that I have skin in the game in the LGBTQ issues. My son came out as gay. So when you not you personally, but when somebody says that someone of the LGBTQ community doesn't have the same rights, is less than, is a pervert, is in any way less human or less deserving of respect than anybody else, you're not talking about my kid. Mm. I'll kill you. I don't have any.
So the 10 Commandments. What are the 10 Commandments?
Oh, those 10 Commandments. They're now suggestions. You're not talking about my child.
The 9 Commandments and that one suggestion.
Yeah. Well, we've seen how well everybody's lived up to that so far. True. I'm a protective parent. Mm. And if you're telling me that there's something wrong with my kid, them fighting words in my neighborhood there, boy. So it's not a political issue for me. It's a personal.
That was a really good accent, by the way. That's fun. Yeah.
It's now incredibly personal to me. It tastes like bigot. If that organization is going to give their money to anti-LGBTQ issues, they have to answer to me. Hmm. And if there's anything I can do to dissuade them from doing that in the future, like casting aspersions on them, that their product tastes like bigot, well, then I'm going to continue to do that.
Have you ever eaten bigot?
I have not, but I've taken. I'm not even going to go there. There's just there's some places even I won't go.
Cool. Well, I love I love the fact you're here. I love the fact that you're dialogue. I love that you're following Funny&Amen. Like, you know, you liked your smiles. I mean, every time I see you like your smile, I'm like, this is cool, because part of what I'm trying to do is just have conversations, and just show, you know, I believe in Jesus, and I believe in, when I study him, I believe in love and listening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a lot of people deifying themselves and saying things that I think are meant for God, should he exist, in some people's opinion. I think if I believe God exists, I'm like a 50 chance. and I have some personal experiences that have felt supernatural. I believe are supernatural, and I think that when I study, because I want to know too, and I study that, and I'm like, all right, cool. If he exists, and if his son is who I think his son is, and his son is exemplifying who he is, there's a way that he lived his life that was truthful, yet caring. And there are things, because of people, because of power, because of the media.
Does this bring you joy? Does
hanging
being
out with
Christian,
hanging out with you and drinking whiskey? Yes.
Yes. Okay. But on a different level,
yeah.
Does being a Christian, being involved in a Christian community and enjoying Christian fellowship, does participating in Christian activities, does following the word of Jesus Christ bring you joy?
Yeah.
Does it make you a better person? Do you
better person? I don't know. I don't know if that's.
Let me clarify that.
Yeah.
Does it make you treat others better than you might ordinarily, if you hadn't heard the word of Christ? Does it make you treat others better?
I don't know if that's. I don't know. I grew up in a Christian home, so I've always been around the teachings of Jesus, and so I can't say one way. I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Because I've only known one way. Mm-hmm. Does it bring me joy? I think that so after there was a group. I tell this story a lot. There was a group of filmmakers. We went out and did a quick CEO interview, and then ended up at lunch together. You know, we were wrapped at like 10 a.m. We're like, let's go to lunch together. It's a free day, you know. And it was fascinating to me because there were a lot of people. There were probably like 6 or 7 of us around the table, and a lot of people started talking about the falsities that they had seen through different religious experiences they were part of. Mm-hmm. And I just was like taking it in, just hearing what people were saying. And someone, a fellow sound person at the meeting.
You ruin it for everybody.
No, you make it wonderful. I think you make it wonderful. He knew that I was a Jesus fan. And so he, after about 20 minutes of people talking about, talking shit about the church or whatever, their different religious experiences that they felt were fake. He says to the group, like, well, Kevin believes in this, and it was like amazing because everyone like says, well, what do you think? And I was like, I can't tell you
right
that your experiences are false.
Right.
I can only speak the truth that I find, the wisdom, the things that I put together for my worldview have only come from my experiences. And true, I grew up under this one philosophy. I have studied other religions, I've studied other philosophies, but there are these moments that feel supernatural to me, where you're for whatever reason you're having this. You're praying, and the wind gusts, or there's no wind. You're inside, and all of a sudden, like, you feel something that feels like wind, or you hear voices. Some people think that's crazy, and maybe it is, or maybe it's a connection with the divine. I don't, I have interpreted, maybe because of my bringing up, I've interpreted this way. But I have friends who've converted from other non-beliefs to beliefs, and to other beliefs to this belief, and I've had friends that have converted out of this belief to other beliefs. And so I have to go back to what we both agreed in. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have experiences that lead me to say, this is what brings me joy. This is what brings me meaning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not only do I not, for me, it's not only do I not know, I don't care. If the voices, we could sit here and we could talk about how the voices are really, the Jiminy Cricket in the back of your head, you're psychologically.
You just came back from
this.
Disney.
Yeah, right. It's psychologically, it's just your inner subconscious doing this. We could do that all day and night, but it does in the end, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If what you are doing, if what you're doing brings you joy, if it makes you feel a better person, if it makes you a better father, if it makes if it brings joy and improves the world, I have no problem with any of that.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to take your kids out and have them bitten by rattlesnakes to prove their faith, I may have an issue with that.
Yeah.
But
I'm not planning on that, just so you know.
But the experience of Christianity is broad.
Yes. Yes.
So you have people of great faith who are doing good works in the world who are tarred by those who are here for secular earthly gain.
Yeah.
And that's
the stirring up of the you're totally right. It is.
That's why people are hesitant when you say, "Hey, I'm a Christian. I believe in that." And they're like, "Oh, really?"
I know some of you are kind, and so do I. And I know me too. I think that's where I come, and why I started this is because after a few years of knowing my purpose of telling stories, I had fallen off the bandwagon, and I'd come up to a place. There's this one Christian book that calls it a crisis of belief.
Okay.
And if you believe something and are not following through with it, it means you really don't believe in it.
Right.
And what's interesting is that I had this experience where I say I believe in resurrection. And I was getting worried about some church organization, not even a human, but it's an organization like dying, a Christian organization dying. What I thought it was had the potential to do good. It's even like some of the nonprofits that you guys serve at PWP. Like if you see that one of them is just like it's failing, it's got some bad leadership issues, it's got some, it's not really doing its mission.
Mm-hmm.
A Christian church should be loving people. First off, there's the members, the people that should be loving each other. And you got this group of people that say they are followers of Jesus, but not even loving each other. They're fighting about the power.
Mm-hmm.
Not even the power to make money, but the power to. I want. This is how I see doing good in the neighborhood. No, this is how I see it.
Right.
There's all this infighting, and I realized at one point that I had become a hypocrite. And the Bible is full of these stories of Pharisees who were the religious leaders who were getting too focused on things other than God and other than the teachings of God. They were just a rule following. And it's interesting that I think I had become one of those Pharisee people, being more focused on the business than the doing good. Being more focused on the.
It was more important to keep the institution going than it was to continue to do the good work.
To love somebody by shutting down the institution.
Yeah.
Like that's where the rubber meets the road. It's like, can you say you know what, PWP, you guys done some good work, but let's let it go. Get kinetic, I've done some good work. Let's let it go. It's time. Its time is over.
Right.
It's time for death has come. That's where I think it gets very interesting to have these philosophies is when big change comes. Mm-hmm. Are we ready for the end? Right. You were looking at leukemia and your end. Can we look at our own ends for a job or whatever, a period of our own life? It gets hairy.
I was working on a documentary for PBS. It was a profile of the First United Methodist Church of Germantown here in Philadelphia, and we spent a year in the life of this church, and it was the church. It had the potential to be a very interesting documentary of addressing the very things you're talking about. It was a church in crisis. It had been for years. It had been the leader of the church, the pastor, had been a good old lefty liberal. Take them to the barricades. March for peace. And the parish, in Germantown was fully supportive of that. That's what they were, that's what they paid to see, man. They came to march. They came to stand up for human rights. They came up, they were going to be on the barricade. They literally have refugees living in the church. Yeah. It's a sanctuary church. And that pastor retired and had a new one. And the new guy was like, he was like I'm trying to think of kind ways to say this. He was a wonderful guy. Yeah. I liked him very much, and he was more of like, you suburban, give 2 sermons and go play golf. Yeah. And not fire and brimstone, not march, head to the barricades kind of guy. And the church reacted against him. Yeah. There was a crisis in this church, and it went all the way down to the doctrine. What doctrine was going to be preached of the Methodist doctrine was going to be preached at the church. And it was a fascinating study of honest people, of good faith, of good intention on both sides, coming to try and decide where this church was going to move forward. And we spent 6 months working on it, and it had the producer and director it was Alan and Susan Raymond, who did if you've studied documentaries, they did the Loud family. They are the gods of verite, and in the film business, and we spent about 6-7 months working on it, and then junior pastor came out as a lesbian and triggered this whole other crisis, and eventually she was defrocked. So it just took this documentary, which could have addressed exactly what you're talking about, those kind of fundamental elements of faith in an evolving world, in a changing environment, people of good faith coming together to decide where their Christianity was going to move forward. The documentary was just hijacked and became about LGBTQ issues, and we never got to resolve those issues. So all the meetings that we were shooting, where people were sitting down and talking doctrine and what it meant to them in a modern life. People who had just accepted faith as just a given. This is just something I do on Sundays, and this is I'm a Methodist, and I believe in this and I believe in that. People who suddenly had to go back to the book and read it and go, this is why I believe this. You know what I mean? that to me that's amazing. That's amazing. It's amazing how much I hang out with Christians and we don't talk about Jesus and we don't read the Bible. And I find that so hilarious. It so hilarious because I'm like, aren't we supposed to be like followers of this dude? Aren't we supposed to be like reading what he said? Mm-hmm.
what his dad said.
Yeah.
You know,
What he said, his dad said.
If you believe that, you know, and I think that there's so much more dialogue about what we feel or what do you feel, or so to me that's hilarious. That's hilarious because I've been in so many like arguments with other Christians trying to do work, and we're like, hey, let's just like talk about Jesus. Oh yeah, let's go read the Bible, but in a second, I want to tell you something what I think first. And I think that to me is amazing. So anyway, we've talked for a while now, and thank you. Wrap it up. Second wrap up. We're done.